The night kollel actually used to be here for quite a while when they did the renovation, so this is our place also. We started this man at the night kollel Hilchos Shabbos Bechlal, and in particular Hilchos Hadlokas Neiros. On a Shiur, a small nakuda la'oira matzav, the Eis Tzara that's now Klal Yisrael's in the Eis Tzara. At the end of last man, the Shiur right before Rosh Hashanah, we spoke about the halacha that Chachamim said not to blow shofar the first day of Rosh Hashanah Shechali is for Shabbos, and the reason Gzeira Shema Yavirena Dal Ramas B'Shus Harabim. A whole Shiur. I ended off the Shiur with a Minchas Ani. The Minchas Ani, the Aruch LaNer, that says that, listen, you're not blowing shofar on Shabbos, I hear, but it's the reason for that is a Gzeira Shema Yavirenu. A person has to make sure that his Shabbos is in check. Right after the Shiur that night, somebody that was by the Shiur came over to me to tell me that his son learns and tells the yeshiva in Cleveland. And over there, for those weeks, the Shabbosim leading up into Rosh Hashanah, they took upon a Zehiris on Shabbos. I told it over to my neighbor, who's an Edom by the Rosh Hashiva of Telz, and he tells me, let me tell you the end of the story. Rosh Hashanah by night, he was a bacher learning after the Suda in the yeshiva till 1 a.m. And he was walking back to the dorm, and he comes to the dorm and he smells fire. Could be I heard the story, I heard it from him. And he comes in, he goes into one of the rooms, and he sees that one of the rooms, the bacher is sleeping, there's a towel over a lamp, and the towel's on fire. For Meised, they worked it out, they were masader, and everything was okay. But upon an instant, Shmir Shabbos. So just, we're learning now the night called Hilchos Shmir Shabbos Bechlal. We started Hilchos Hadlokas Neiros. Shiur one nekuda on Hadlokas Neiros b'Torah Akdama before we get into the halacha, the Bekoyer, the reason. In Parshas Behaloischa, the mitzvah of Hadlokas Neiros HaMenorah in the Beis HaMikdash, so Rashi brings that Aaron HaKohen at Chalishas Adas, that he wasn't part of the Nesiim because the Nesiim, he wasn't part of it. Chol Shadaita. So the Rashi brings that you're going to also have a chelik. Shulcha Gedola, you're also going to have a chelik. The Medrash actually, the Ramban says, what's the chelik that you're going to have? And actually, the Medrash says a lashon Shulcha Kayemas La'olam. It's La'olam. What's the La'olam? So the Ramban says the La'olam is referring to Neiros of Chanukah. Neiros of Chanukah. So what is it connected to the Neiros of the Beis HaMikdash? The Teretz is because the whole Nes of Chanukah, the whole menorah that we light, comes off in Beis Sheni when they're able to light the menorah again. The Kedushas Levi says he goes with this and he's marchiv on a little bit of a different track, and he says that it's referring to the mitzvah of Hadlokas Neiros of Shabbos, which was already Chaim Moshe Rabbeinu. The schus that Klal Yisrael was madlik Neiros shel Shabbos throughout the Doros, that schus, that schus gave us that we have Shalcha Kayem Asloim. It's referring to the mitzvah of Ner Shabbos. So we see the koyach and the schus of the mitzvah of Hadlokas Ner Shabbos. How the Kedushas Levi brings Shalcha Kayem Asloim. How did we have the schus that in Beis Sheni, the nes of the menorah in Beis Sheni, we had the nes al yidei what? Al yidei the koyach that Klal Yisrael's madlik Neiros of Shabbos. These are Medrash in Yalkut Shemonim Behaloischa. The Medrash says, Im shemartem Neiros shel Shabbos, ani mar lachem Neiros shel Tzion. So Taka, like what the Kedushas Levi says, that the schus of Hadlokas Neiros Shabbos gave us the nes of Chanukah and Beis Sheni. It should be Taka Makuyim. This that the Medrash says that if Ubakayim Neiros shel Shabbos will be Zoicha to the Neiros shall see, and the says will be zoicha to the Pinyan Beis HaMikdash. Good, we got to the reasons. Beis of the Beis HaMikdash. Good, very good. There's a chiyuv of Hadlokas Neiros Shabbos. A chiyuv, the makor for the chiyuv. What's the makor of the chiyuv? It's a Gemara in Shabbos, the Lashon HaGemara. The Gemara says, Chafhei bat Beis choiva. It's a chiyuv. In other words, it's not a minig, it's not a rishus, it's also not a mitzvah kiyumis. To say the second day sukkahs, you want to sit in the sukkah, you're makayim a mitzvah, but you're not mechuyev. Hadlokas Neiros, you're mechuyev, there's a chiyuv. Is the chiyuv a chiyuv d'oraisa? Is the chiyuv a chiyuv d'rabanan? So the Rambam in Hilchos Shabbos, Perek Kezak, the Rambam says chayiv behem, when the Rambam is speaking about the mitzvah Hadlokas Neiros, the Rambam chayiv behem medivrei soifrim. The chiyuv is a chiyuv medivrei soifrim. Now, lemaisa, from this that it says medivrei soifrim is not a raya, medivrei soifrim that it means midrabana. Why is it not a raya? The Rambam in the beginning of Ishus, it's pretty famous. The Rambam says koydem matan Torah odom pageya isha b'shuk. That's marriage. After matan Torah, for a person to be married, there's one of three ways: bekesev, b'shtar, u'bebiyah. Zok the Rambam, shtar u'biyah is mideiraisa, kesev is medivrei soifrim. So they ask, what do you mean it's medivrei soifrim? The Gemara in Kedushin, kicha must therefore it's a drasha. So the Lach Mishnah answers medivrei soifrim means something that's not mefurish. If it's idea drasha, the Rambam calls it medivrei soifrim. So maybe from what the Rambam says medivrei soifrim is lav dafka, that it's the Rabbanon. The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvahs in the Akdama, the Rambam has 14 shroshim that's magder how he gets to the count of 613. To say, Mechatesa, what mitzvahs, how is he magder? In the first shirish, the Rambam says that I do not include mitzvahs the Rabbanon. 613 mitzvahs, they're all Minat Torah. As is like the Rambam. But the Rambam says, wait a second, what's the havamini even to put in mitzvahs the Rabbanon? Of course, Taryag mitzvahs misinai, it's d'oraisa. What does it mean? What would be the tzad to say differently? Now the Rambam says, Elishatov boy Rabbim, and they say the Tov by Ram. The Ramban over there says, who's the Tov? It's the Bahag. Tov by Rabbim that list many mitzvahs as a d'oraisa. The mitzvah of Megillah, the mitzvah of Chanukah, as a d'oraisa. The Rambam doesn't bring over there the mitzvah of Hadlokas Neiros, that others are Toya. However, it's brought in the Bahag, I didn't find it inside, but it's brought that the Bahag also says Hadlokas Neiros Shabbos is d'oraisa. Where's this Makor that it's d'oraisa? Halacha l'Moshe Messinai. It's not in the Torah, it's Halacha l'Moshe Messinai. What'd you say? What's a Ferish Mishnah? Yeah.
Shabbos, right, the three things.
It doesn't say Makar.
Is it the Raisa or the Rabbanon?
Where's the Makar from the Mishnah? Where's the Mishnah getting it from?
So from the Mishnah, Taki, you're right. I started off by saying Chayva from the Gemara. You're saying I should have brought the Mishnah. But the Shaila is, we want to very clear. The mitzvahs Hadlokas Neiros, is it a Chiv Minat Torah or is it a Chiv Midrabanan? Chiv Minat Torah or Chiv Midrabanan?
Well, it depends also if it's a Kabbalah Shabbos or not. If it's something that would be in the Kabbalah Shabbos too, then after it'd be more d'oraisa, because that's the idea of Kabbalah Shabbos.
The oifen of Kabbalah Shabbos, Tosfos Shabbos, if you're doing it,
yeah, right.
but then that doesn't mean you're mechuyev to be Madlik Neiros. You could say you can be Makabel Shabbos. I know that's one of the ways of being Makabel Shabbos, but it doesn't mean that you have to be Madlik Neiros. The Bahag says it's d'oraisa, and the Sefer HaYirei and Minyan HaMitzvahs, it's a long shtickle, and he says Gemara Gemirule, which is Halacha l'Moshe Messinai. However, it's not the Pashtus. The Pashtus is that it's not d'oraisa. The Ritva says clearly, Hadlokas Neiros midrabanon. In Tikkun Leil Shavuos, even if you don't say it, you can take a look in the back. it lists out the Zion mitzvahs midrabanan. And the mitzvah hagimel is lahadlik ner Shabbos. The mitzvah derabanan lahadlik ner Shabbos. Though it's not so poshut that the mitzvah of Hadlokas Neiros is one of the Zion mitzvahs derabanan. The Chasam Sofer on Parashas Yisroi in Torah's Moshe, at the end of the Aseres Adibris, he says that all the letters of Aseres Adibris equal to 620. Keser, what's 620? 613 mitzvahs midoraisa and 7 mitzvahs midrabanan. And he lists out the 7 mitzvahs midrabanan. You'll take a look, and in that list, it's not mentioned over there Hadlokas ner Shabbos. Interesting. The Mishnah Brura that we're learning now, Siman Reish Samach Gimel, Sif Cotton Yod Gimel, is Mavur, that it's the Rabbanon. That's La Allah, it's a mitzvah the Rabbanon. Though we say clearly it's a mitzvah the Rabbanon, the Balaturim, taka by the mitzvah over there of Hadlokas Neiros of the Beis HaMikdash, Zok the Balaturim, Va'ata Tetzava, is Begematri and Noshim, that Noshim are Mechuyev Lahadlik Ner Shabbos. So that's the Makor. The first part we wanted to speak about the Makor. The Gemara says it's a Chiv Midrabanan. Let's go down to the reasons. What's the reason for Hadlokas ner Shabbos? What's the reason? We'll see there's a few reasons. The first reason is a Gemara. It's a few Gemaras actually. The Gemara of Chav Gimel and Beis, the Gemara says if you only have Erev Shabbos Chanukah, you only have one candle, either to light Ner Chanukah or Ner Shabbos. So which one is Kaidem? Ner Shabbos or Ner Chanukah? So the Gemara says Ner Shabbos is Kaidem. Why? So the Gemara Mashum Shalom Bayis. What does Shalom Bayis mean? The Pashtus, as we'll see, Shalom Bayis has nothing to do with a husband and wife. Shalom Bayis, like Rashi says over there, Shebnei Beisoy Mitztarim Leishav B'Choshech. It's unpleasant sitting in the dark. So there's no peace in the house when it's dark. Nothing to do with a husband and wife. Rashi weiter in the Chafheim with Beis Aloshan Rashi says, Ubermokim she'ein neir, ein shalom. Why? Not just because it's not enjoyable, it's not pleasant when it's dark, but Rashi says, she'hoylech v'nichshel ba'afela. Person goes in the dark, he trips, he falls. So maybe there's no shalom bias. Another Gemara, which Moshe, it's going on that Mishnah that you mentioned from the Siddur, the Mishnah in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Daled. The Mishnah says, Gimel Dvarim Tzarech Adam Loime B'Tach Beisai. Actually, the third, which is Hadlokas Neiros, how Rashi explains, is not a reminder, it's actually a tzivui. That's what the Gemara says, you have to say it b'nichusa. So the Gemara says, Menohani Mili, how do you know the Makar of Hadlokas Neiros? Zok the Gemara, Amar B'Shua B'Levi Amakra, V'yadatak Yishalom Ha'alecha. Also, the Pasuk doesn't say anything about being Madlik Neiros, but it says, V'yadatak Yishalom Ha'alecha, means that what? V'yadatak Yishalom Ha'alecha, Dahainu, you should be Shalom Bayis. This that was saying that Hadlokas Neiros Shalom Bayis means, Harashi says that it should be peace in the house, you shouldn't trip. L'maisa, the Rambam, in the end of Hilchas Chanukah, the last halacha, Perik Daled, halacha Yudaled, the Rambam says, on this Gemara, that the Gemara declares, what's first? If you only have one Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah, which one is Kaidem? And the Gemara says, Ner Shabbos is Kaidem, Mishum Shalom Bayis. Like the Rambam, Mishum Shalom Beisai, Shaharei, Zok the Rambam, Shaharei, Hashem Nimchak, Lasis Shalom Ben Ishli Isha. The Rambam says, you know why Shalom Bayis is so important? That you should light Ner Shabbos over Chanukah, that's Persuma Nisa. Why is Shabbos so important? Zok the Rambam, because Shaharei, Yemoichik, the Eibishter's name. In other words, lighting Neiros of Shabbos is Shalom Bayis. It doesn't just mean that a person shouldn't trip in the house. Mishum Shalom Bayis, Dahainu Bein Ish L'Isha. What'd you say? He's saying, but it's not really in between.
Going on mitzvah, so it's not Shalom Bayis. He's not saying.
Aha. You're saying that's the Shalom Bayis, because really, interesting way I say, you're saying the Shalom Bayis is if you're taking away her mitzvah. Interesting. Because Lamaisa, they speak about it. Really, what would come out la'orzeh is that the mitzvah is only a mitzvah when there's a husband and wife. If somebody doesn't have a wife, then maybe there's no chiyuv. That's what should come out, only if there's a ish v'isha.
Maybe see that the Rambam is not agreeing with Rashi. He could be very much agreeing with Rashi, because he could be saying that the afela, he's not saying it straight out, but the afela could cause machlekes bein ish leish.
Absolutely, that could be the reason what the Rambam says, bein ish leisha dahainu, bein ish leisha dahainu, that they'll fall over each other, they'll bang in. You're right. But what I want to point out is how the Rambam says, Shalom Beis bein ish leisha, if there is no ish v'isha in the house, it should come out that there's no chiv Hadlokas Neiros.
Rashi, if there's any other type of light, you don't have to light.
Yeah, and Chanami. That's stamazay. Hopefully we'll even get to it tonight. That's stamazay true. If there's light.
But if the Rabban, if there's another light, you would still have to light.
Here's the thing. Hadlokas Neiros is to take away the darkness. The shadow is, why does it have to take away the darkness? Does it have to take away the darkness? Because even just somebody's in the house and he shouldn't fall over. And if it's light, he's anyways not going to fall over. Or it's going to cause shalom bayis between him and his wife. That's reason number one, shalom bayis, which we see two ways to understand it, which l'chor should be a very clear nafkamina, but often that there is no wife, maybe there's no chiyuv. But we'll see other reasons there is a chiyuv. The second reason, mishum oinig, which is brought in the Rishonim, Tosfos Daf Chafei Amud Beis, Tosfos on where the Gemara says chayva. So Zok Tosfos, Hadlokas Neir b'Shabbos chayva, Pirish b'Mokoim Suda, the chayva sheyisaid b'Mokom Aner. Why mishum oinig? To say, and the Rambam says the same thing also, Perik He Halacha Aleph Lashon Rambam, that the chiyuv is a chiyuv b'shem oinig. Umadlikas aner, I'm just pulling out one line of the Rambam. Umadlikas aner is like the Rambam, shezeh b'chlal oinig Shabbos. The Tosfos HaRosh as well also. The Rosh's yahrzeit was this Tuesday, yesterday. The Rosh was nifter in Peiches, almost 700 years ago. Now we're holding Tofshin Pei Daled, and he was nifter in Peiches. Al Kapanim, the Tosfos HaRosh says the reason why there's a mitzvah Hadlokas there Shabbos is Mishum Oinik Shabbos. What's the Oinik Shabbos? There's a Medrash Pliya. Many bring it. The Chidah brings it. Others bring it. There's a Medrash Pliya. This explains it. The Medrash Pliya says, Zacharnu es hadaga, when Klal Yisrael went out of Mitzrayim, they complained. We remember the dog, however you understand it, the pickle. Zok the Medrash bekan shemadlike Neiros b'Shabbos. So what's the pshat? From this to Klal Yisrael, Zacharnu es hadaga, makan shemadlike Neiros b'Shabbos. So the Chidah explains that the pshat is be'etzem etzakasha. What do you mean Zacharnu es hadaga? They could have had a mind with the mon, whatever they wanted. Though maybe some pshatim say not everything. But he says, I found that they were able to have a mind whatever they wanted. But they didn't see the food. Memela, Zok the Chidah, that's the Oinik Shabbos. Nothing to do with falling. You can have light all over your whole house. It's lit up, you're not falling anywhere. Could you walk into your dining room that's pitch black and just sit down and eat? You're not going to fall, not going to bang into anything. Of them, it's missing the oinig. What's the oinig? Because it's geschmack. When you eat, you see the food. That's the oinig. Just to bring a Gemara in Yuma, Ayin Daled Amud Beis, the Gemara in Yuma. The Gemara says, Einoi doima, misha roya v'oichel, somebody who sees this food, l'misha eino roya v'oichel. Amar Rabbi Yosef, makan remes, l'sumen she'oichlan. Nebuch, a blind person that eats, ve'ein svei, and they don't become full. Amar Rabbi, hilkoch, somebody that eats should only eat by day. Al kapanim, you see clearly the maila, the adifas of eating when it's light, when you could see. So that's the reason why the Chachamim gave us the mitzvah Hadlokas there Shabbos to eat in the light.
So it would be the Dibba Yom Kippur for the blind person.
He doesn't become full, but he...
People
who are helping him.
That's what he just said.
It said that those who are helping you get the consistency.
There's
no Neiros. So that's the only
They can't taste the They can't taste.
The fact that I can walk around.
The halacha is that if somebody has flies, halacha Shulchan it's later, Reisha and Gimel. If somebody in his house has flies and he wants to go outside because there's no flies, a lot of times it's the other way around, but there's flies in his house, he wants to go outside. So the din is, he's allowed to go eat outside even though it's dark. It's dark and you need the Neiros. The teretz is, in the Bir Halacha over there, the idea is to have the Neiros that it should be oinig. If you're going to sit in your dining room and there's no oinig because these flies, so really you could go outside.
Mosquitoes now instead.
See, by them, if you slap them, they go away.
So far we have two reasons in the mitzvah of Hadlokas Neiros. We have the reason of kavod, of shalom bayis, and the reason of oinig. As we explained before, mishum oinig, you only have to light where you eat. Mishum shalom bayis, not the trip. You have to make sure your hallways are lit up. It's very clear. Not the fall, not the trip. It doesn't help that your dining room is lit up. You have Neiros over there. It has to be lit other places as well also. I don't see that we're going to get in this year, about electric. It's anyways lit up, but it comes out that the mitzvah Hadlokas Neiros, in your whole house, it should be lit up. Shalom bayis, you shouldn't trip. And then there's another mitzvah in your dining room. It should be lit up. You should oinik Shabbos. The Shulchan Aruch Harav spells it out clearly. Reish Samach Gimel, the first Tiknu Chachamim. Shiur kol echad lechol echad neir doilik b'Shabbos b'chol cheder v'cheder. Every single room should have a lecht. Why? So you shouldn't trip. That's one understanding of the mitzvah derabanan of lighting Neiros Shabbos. And then he's mamshech and he says b'shem shalom bayis. Then he says v'chayiv kol adam k'sha'oichel sudas halayla la'ochla eitzel haneir shezeh b'chal oinik Shabbos. So far we have two understandings and these two parts to the mitzvah. There's another reason that the Rambam says, this is the Rambam Perek Lamed, and the Rambam says a third reason, a reason mishum kavod. The Lashon HaRambam, which l'chayra would be the same as oinig b'pashtus. If you take a look in Rashi Chafayim at Beis, it's interesting when Rashi speaks about oinig, eating the Suda, Rashi says that's kavod Shabbos. But the Rambam, it's interesting because the Rambam, these two Rambams, the one in Perek Hey, the Rambam says oinig, and then the Rambam says again the mitzvah Hadlokas Neiros and Perek Lamed, and the Rambam says kavod. Misader Adam Shulchanoi Be'erev Shabbos. The Rambam has a list of different things what's called kavod Shabbos, and then the Rambam says v'yir neir dolok v'shulchan aruch. In other words, before the Rambam said he's a din of oinig, now the Rambam says he's a din of kavod. Is it kavod? Is it oinig? If it's the same thing, why does the Rambam change the lashon?
Doesn't oinig bring kavod?
What'd you say?
Doesn't oinig Shabbos bring a kavod Shabbos?
So Zok the Brisker Rav, and the same is also already before earlier Mafurish in the Gra, and Hilchas Yom Tov, he spells it out clearly. You're saying that one brings the other. They say, and the Pri Tzaddik, Reb Tzaddik HaKohen, the Leblin, he also says there's a big arichas in Maimer of Shabbos. He says mamash this word, but arichas, he explains it clearly. Yisoid. There's a chiluk between kavod Shabbos and oinik Shabbos. Kavod Shabbos is what you prepare before Shabbos. You polish your shoes before Shabbos. You set the table. That's all kavod Shabbos. It's a kavod for Shabbos. Coming into Shabbos, you prepare candles. That's all kavod Shabbos. Oinig is Friday night by the Suda, and it's lit up. You're eating lo'ir aner. That's oinig. Oinig, you're enjoying yourself. Oinig Shabbos. So kavod Shabbos is Erev Shabbos. Oinig is Friday night. L'nafka mina. If you could figure out a way that it should be lit Friday night, or dolek, it's lit, we're eating the Suda without Erev Shabbos, you have Oinik Shabbos. Oinik Shabbos is not machayev to light Erev Shabbos be'etzem. You just can't light it Friday night, so you have to do it Erev Shabbos. But the Oinig, the mitzvah, not for this year, b'chlal, but the bracha, it will be what to talk about. But the mitzvah, oinig yimakayim, you have the oinig Friday night. The covered Shabbos, what you have with covered Shabbos is already, is Erev Shabbos. Just to be Messiah, so he said very clearly, he said the Chiur Hadlokas Neiros is a Chiur b'pashtus midrabanon, one of the Zion mitzvahs midrabanon. We said 3 reasons for the mitzvah. Reason number 1 is Mishum Shalom Bayis, either Shalom Bayis, not the trip. Shalom Bayis could also mean between a husband and wife. We said Oinig, to enjoy the Suda, Oinig Shabbos. We also said Kavod Shabbos. Just to be Messiah with another Rosh, the Rosh in Chuvas, it's not our topic at all, but the Rosh Klal Hey has a shaila if you can light a candle at the end of one night of Yom Tov into the next night, a whole discussion. But his point is that Neiros has a maila, besides what he says with Kavod Beis HaKnesses, but he says that when a person has Neiros, it's Mevi L'dei Simcha. So Kum T'chais, he doesn't say it, but L'cha'ira, the Metzias is a Metzias. He says that when you have Neiros, like the Rosh, when you have Neiros, it's Mevi Simcha. It's maybe Simcha. So Ibazoi, besides when a person's Madlak Neiros, he has Kavod Shabbos, Oinig Shabbos, and Shalom Bayis, it also it's maybe L'dei Simcha.
Wouldn't the lights next to the school cause a big problem that you might be